Hi guys.
Hey, Roger. Welcome.
We found the right chain.
Hi, Jim.
Wow.
Nice to see you, Jim.
Oh, nice to see you, Rob. I got back from Tulip all in one piece, all on my own. How about that?
It's a long trek.
It was a long trek. For 2 days it was. I was out of it for a week. I tell you, I'm not a great time traveler. Definitely not.
Sorry, everybody. That was my fault. Messed that up completely. Let's blame Bill Gates. Yeah.
No worries. Jim, did you want to kick us off today?
Yeah, sure. Okay then. Well, I mean, the first thing is hopefully everyone's got a copy of the agenda or can see the agenda. I put it out there yesterday. I mean, I jumped in and did that. So again, I only did this because I just thought it'd be quite a good way of starting off. But the first thing on the agenda is the temporary chair approval, because, you know, does anybody want to take this over? Do you want me to carry on? We need to decide who wants to do it. I'm happy to carry on for today.
I move that we keep you in this position. And 1 second.
Second.
All right, let's call for a vote.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's good. Right.
Agreed.
Okay then, guys, we'll crack on. I mean, I've got some views about the chair and about this meeting moving forward, but I'll hold those back for maybe another time. So we need someone. Are we going to minute this meeting in some way? How are we going to go about that? Are we just going to record it for this first one? Have we got a volunteer to do something about the minute side of things?
I think Phil's taking some minutes. Phil, are you here?
I'm just listening in, yeah.
Okay. I nominate you to be the scribe, Phil.
You want me to describe it?
Yep.
Sure.
Any seconds?
You guys did not hear before. If you could update your names to include your BP names so that we're easily identified.
Great call. And let's all remember to mute out if we can during when we're not talking, if possible.
I am going to try to get on. I'm doing this through my iPhone, and a Telegram was not connecting for some strange reason. So I will try to update mine. Let me see if I can open this up.
Okay, well, we'll press on a little bit while people are doing that, because it sort of leads into the third point, which is the admin and the general hosting and live stream, etc. Thanks for the person who, did we say we are recording this? And are we happy to continue with this for the next call? I'm just sort of trying to move us forward on that.
Yep, Jim. I've got the recording rolling, and we can just start to put those into the Keybase file system so people who missed the call can review. Okay, so we're happy with that, and maybe we can we'll review that as we go along, but we'll just sort of keep things moving. Okay, so as a chair, I've got down to 0.4 already, guys. So, you know, hey, we're not doing bad. So the next point is the duration of this call and future schedule. So are we going to put a time limit on it, or how do you guys feel we want to roll with? Do we want another call at the same time next week? Do we want 2 calls? How do you want to go about that?
I would say that less is more at this point, unless there are critical issues that need to be discussed. We definitely need a once per week call, and we want to make sure we get everybody into the groove. So I vote for a single call per week at this point, unless there are more issues than we can manage in a single call.
I would second that.
Okay, well, everybody happy with that? Anybody got any hard objections to that? Give us a thumbs up, or whatever we need. Give us a nod. I can sort of see that. Look at that. That's a really quick way of doing it. Give us a thumbs up. Is that? I don't know that's democratic, but it seems to be working for the time being. Anyway, we'll see where we go with this.
Do we want to make that a status update next week so the working groups can report on what's going on? Basically, we'll just have points for that.
Yeah,
cool.
I mean, I think, if we think about the BP calls on the EOS chain, they limit them to an hour, which I think personally is a mistake, because I think if you committed to sorting the agenda and sorting the business in the agenda, you should actually go through with it. And if you've got someone driving the call, which generally they don't have, then maybe I think that if we commit to an agenda, unless it's going on for a stupid time, we need to try and fulfill that agenda. Otherwise, people just get bumped off, and there seems to be no point in making your agenda items. But we'll come back to that next week.
Can I suggest that rather than a hard limit on any total meeting, that we consider a 10-minute meeting per issue, and if we can't come to some resolution on something in 10 minutes, then maybe it requires further offline discussion. Does that seem like a good way to go forward?
Let's try that. I mean, I think it's a little challenging from the get-go. We're not sure what this is going to look or feel like, but I think that's a good idea. So let's try to adhere to that with some flexibility.
Sure, as a rough principle, not as a hard, fast rule.
Okay, well, I'll try and I'm gonna have to get a stopwatch if I continue to be the chair then. But I want one of those chess ones that you do that to. I reckon probably that's what I need to do. So okay, then. So the next thing, I don't know whether you want to do this now, but I knocked up a little meetings, rules and procedures document and left it on the channel. Whether people had a chance to look at that, I'm sort of proposing that I don't feel it's a benefit to read through it, but maybe if we can put it out there and then and use this meeting to flag it up that it is out there, and that if anybody wants to add to it, and maybe we come back at the next meeting and talk through it in more detail. I don't know what people think, or I'm happy to read through each item and talk about them if you want to, but I'm not sure that's going to fully help us. What does anybody think?
I think we could. Sorry,
go ahead.
Okay, I'll go ahead. I think we should all read it offline. You're absolutely right. It's not necessarily the most efficient use of our time to go through it right now. Thanks for putting that together. But let's all read it offline and discuss it offline. And if there's takeaways from that we need to discuss face to face, we can do that in our next meeting.
Okay,
second that.
That sounds great. But if the document's there, just add to it. But the thing that I really want to make sure that we do, and the thing that's annoyed me intensely on the other channel, is the fact that they have got a document. I don't say like that, but a document has been produced and it's not stuck to. So if we do this and it's there, I think we should stick to it. I think we need to agree that if we do agree to that document and we get it right, that we then continue with it. Okay, so the next point is the APB reward structure and moving to a bounty system. Who wants to have a crack at that? Douglas, do you want to go on that one?
Sure, I will. I want to kick it off by saying that there's nothing. We're all aware of the situation. I believe we've all talked about it. That in the white paper, there is a proposal that there's a 6 million. There's 1 million Telos rewards for the AVPs. We have some due to community feedback, and also the idea that it might not be. There's a chance that picking first who gets everything may leave people out. It's quite possible that our very best contributors have not even joined the group yet, right? So we don't want to exclude people. It may be more fair and equitable to divide things up afterwards. The problem with that and the challenge is that how then do we do that in a way that's fair and actually reflects everything and actually appears legitimately to the community to be something that is based, that they have input on, right? I think as much as the amount, right, this is actually a very low amount for any kind of founder's reward. If you look at the 10% of Zcash or this other one, EOS, or a few others, it's not out of line really, but it seems like I think people would have like to have more community engagement on that. So the proposal I made, and it's just a proposal, is and it's just as a conversation starter, is then to instead track what everybody does somehow that we all think is fair, make it public, and then in the spirit of EOS, open that up to some kind of vote The concern is I don't want it to be some open-ended vote, because that's crazy. And we want to give people say, but we don't want to give them full authorship of how this is, because there's likely to be a small number of reasonable ways to divvy it up. And I think that the idea is we make the vote the sort of the consensus mechanism when we all have differences of opinion on what's fair. I don't think it's ideal. I don't think anything's ideal. I don't know there's any ideal thing. So we need to find a workable solution. And so in that spirit, I propose something, the tip as number one, as a starting document, and I'm open to people's. I think the thing I'd like to hear first on this call is, what is the general? Is this general seem like a workable thing, or do we just want to reject it? And if the former, then what kind of further commentary can we have to improve it here? And then I'll mute out.
I'll hop in. Thanks, Douglas. I really like the idea of having a merit-based bounty system. I think it opens up, like you said, the contribution, the rewards to more people and people who aren't here yet. So it'll actually have a huge boon for growing the project, to have an open bounty system, as opposed to, seemingly arbitrarily picking 6 people or teams to receive million token grants. There's more than 6 teams on this call, I think. So someone would be getting the shaft, and it's just going to make it much easier, but it creates more bookkeeping. And I propose that we use project management procedure to track the how much everything is worth. And so we need to basically appoint a person or a group of people, which I definitely choose you, Doug, to manage the project in a way where basically breaking out what each of the working groups should try to accomplish at a high level, and then they need to use some sort of project management tool to track the contributions, so the time. And then we have to set a value for everyone's time. So BitShare's worker proposals already does this. There's a few examples I can link you to where they have a project manager, and Doug's time spent project managing would actually be valued as the contribution as well. So the project manager, if it's not you, Doug, someone else, right? But the project manager still gets paid to manage the project because that's work that needs to get done. But it allows us to more efficiently allocate all the contributions to more people. But it increases bookkeeping. But in the long run, the PR gain from this, because the 6 million ABP creating 6 whales rhetoric isn't going to go away. So I think it'd be perhaps more straightforward to go with 6 million token grants, but by putting in the time to do a bounty system correctly, we'll get PR gains as well as more efficient allocation to more people, creating less whales. So that's my say. I think it's worth putting time into.
Okay, does anybody else want to have a pitch in with
Yeah,
that?
I could speak to that. I mean, I think Rob, you nailed it, to be fair. I mean, I had suggested that perhaps we'd try and do something a lot less formal, and we just kind of go like, if you've worked on stuff today, you get a tick next to your name, and that equals an amount of Telos, and that could be like a really simple way of doing it. But I think actually, what you're saying there is it's going to come under scrutiny, and so the more auditable it is, the better. And look, we're all here, we're all working, so yeah, let's formalise it in a way that means that it's kind of paid for that. Imaginary money at this point. Hopefully, at some point in the future, if we all do our jobs right, it'll be worth something.
On that point, this is also how we allocate equity at EOS Detroit. So I didn't just say I get 40%, Phil gets 2%, and so on and so forth. We set up a pool, and for us, the pool is 6 million Telos, and we all put our contributions into a model, and it's dynamically calculated over time. So that's another model that we could use here. I think it's too complicated. I think we can simply do a bounty system, but we'll, we can talk about the details offline. Like this would probably deserve writing a full proposal.
The one,
Yeah,
sorry.
Go on, carry on, James. Yeah, carry on, please.
I just want to make one point that rather than being very specific up front about how much these things are worth, part of the proposal was that we would vote at the end of it, and there might be different proposals. Different people have different ideas about how much their work is valued. So I don't know if we want to keep that as part of the transaction or not, but it seems valuable rather than trying to guess ahead of time how much everything is worth.
I think we're coming up close to the 10-minute barrier on this, and I think this is a sort of topic that if we let it can run and run. I think we need a hard proposal for maybe Rob or Douglas to go away and put something, a firm proposal together or work together on something and come back with, like say, working offline. Have we got some mechanism of doing that? I know we're talking on point 7 is the secure communications. I don't know whether we can wrap this one up with a bit of a proposal and then move on.
Can I make a suggestion there? I think that for me, I think this topic discussion has been a win because unless I haven't heard any dissent to the general idea as an improvement, and I think Rob's. If there is an existing, rather than invent a process, I would always tend to prefer an existing process that's known to work. So I'm very much in favor of that if we can, and I'd just like to understand it better. Why don't Rob and I and anyone else who is interested in having input at this time on this, do an offline on this, and with an idea that this is the direction we're moving in. And maybe we keep this private. I don't think there's a problem if we can work on this week, come together with a proposal, vote on it, and then announce it on the call or in next week's status report. I think that's very timely. In 2 weeks to have an actual consensus, if that's possible, would be good. So I'm going to move that we table this until Rob and I and anyone else who wants to join us in that discussion have an offline discussion that would end up in a deliverable of a proposal that we would hopefully by Monday or sooner of next week, so that we can ideally over the weekend, so everyone can have a chance to look at it, digest, discuss offline, and then move to some kind of vote on that in next week's call. So that's what I would move for. Anybody second that?
Second.
Can I just add one quick point?
I'm sorry. Jan has something he wants to add.
No, sorry. I just said I agree.
Oh, I'm sorry. Somebody wanted to add a quick point.
Daniel, sorry.
Yeah, just real quick point. If we're going to take the time to write something very formal and it's going to take 2 weeks, I'd like to propose that we at least come up with some sort of simple, brief statement that we can share to the community to say that we've recognized this feedback, it is changing, and it's going to be a system that will not only benefit BPs, but the community members that want to contribute to Telos, and expect a formal outline of exactly how that process works in time. Because, literally there's a conversation going on the Foundation channel. We're talking about this. So the sooner we can get something out, I think the sooner we'll be able to garner more support.
So that makes a lot of sense, and we've already gone public, by talking about this. So but we haven't shared that. So why don't as part of that, why don't we make Rob and I and anybody else involved in that, make a really brief statement, just that, the basic, like a one paragraph, what's the shape of what we're doing and when we hope to have an answer.
One quick point on that, Douglas. I would suggest that instead of framing it as the foundation and this group coming back with another concept, which I think we should and you should still do, I think it should be framed as this is the opportunity for the community to give input on other possibilities and other options and how we should move forward.
Great idea. Yeah.
Okay, then. So if I'm just going to try and bring this all together, well, I'm sort of
I have something to add. Sorry, I have something.
Yeah, go on, carry on, Joseph. Yeah.
Because in the last hour, I got two private messages from two persons just talking about that. And both were telling me, why are you guys reading off whales and creating new ones? So just in 1 hour, two private messages on Telegram. I think we have to remove this from the white paper right now, or put something that we are working on it, that is on the heavy debate or whatever, because it's not helping having this already on the paper right now. Just saying.
Okay, I mean that's taking it to a slightly different level, but let's just to summarise then. Douglas and Rob are going to go together and move something forward in the background. But what we're saying is, Daniel and Joseph, you seem to think that we need to put something out there on Telegram or wherever, and Douglas and Rob can do that. But Joseph, you're sort of saying we need to update the white paper, and that's, I think I'm looking at Douglas there.
Yeah, but people is downloading the white paper right now, and they are reading, and they are reaching out with that concerns. So, you know,
yeah, I
the white
second,
paper is the Bible right now.
Yeah, I second his proposal.
I hope it's okay. I hope it's okay if I chime in here, guys, real quick. This is Sean, by the way.
Oh, thanks, Sean.
And I apologize for not being able to. I'm on my phone and I don't have access to the internet to put my name in. But I want to. And was that Joseph who just said that about the white paper? I would love to echo that. And I know, and maybe it can't be that formal, but I agree that and it sounds like we are moving away from the idea that it's, you know, what people are saying are 6 whales. If we're moving away from that, of saying, hey, we're not gonna do that, that something should be said that allows people to see that we have stepped back from that in order to do exactly what Joseph said, which is to quiet that chatter and say, it's better to leave it nebulous and say we're taking suggestions. I think that's phenomenal. But having something informally formal is a good marketing move.
Okay, so I mean we're moving on with the discussion really. I mean I think what we're saying is.
I apologize for jumping in there.
No, that's absolutely fine. We're getting the gist of it, because I was quite pleased that other people are chiming in, because we do want people to be able to contribute to the calls. But the way I see it is that we've got a way forward here with a background proposal, an interim statement, but we've got a bigger thing now, which seems to be whether we are going to amend the white paper, and that seems to be leading the discussion first, if you see what I mean. It's almost we should have discussed that before we talked about the other things. What's your feeling, Douglas, about amending the white paper as it's got your name on it?
I have no problem with that. I think there's 2 basic ways to move forward, which is either to leave the white paper as its own document and then update it through Telos improvement proposals, which is a tried and true way to go. Or we could keep updating the white paper, and I think almost updating the white paper is not as good, because you are never going to necessarily know which version of the white paper people are referencing. Whereas if you want to talk about one clear issue, we could issue new improvement proposals and then quickly point to what happened on every issue. I actually think it's probably a better way to amend it. I'm open to anything, but that's I just feel like that is more what people expect. But I'm open to anything, and I think that I do want to roll back real quick and try to understand that are we all in favor of just changing this to a bounty pool, essentially a founders reward pool, as opposed to the flat 6? Because we could make that decision, we could make that announcement and say we've decided to, for all these reasons to move to a Telos founders reward pool. We are discussing how that will be allocated at the end of after activation, and community feedback is welcome and encouraged. Is that a statement that we could make, do you think, now?
I think that's a good statement to make. I would just say that part of the reason for that decision is based on the community feedback that you've been getting so far.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, so
I will say
that's great.
We'll frame up a document that we'll frame up a statement that sums all that up, and we'll carry on how we were. But we need to go back to Joseph on Barcelona, just to sort of say in the statement we will mention that we may well amend the white paper or update the white paper, but just until the next call, we won't update the white paper until at least the next call, and then I think we can move forward. Is everybody happy with that?
Actually, I'm sorry, I'm going to dissent slightly because normally I would agree with Douglas's comments about not changing the white paper with every little thing, but this has become such a major contention. It's really our only serious contention that I've seen from anybody reviewing this, and we've only announced Telos for a few days now, so this is the opportunity to cut that off at the pass. At least that's my perspective.
Well, okay, Daniel, but if we say in the proposal, in the statement, that what we intend to do, and we intend to update the white paper, but don't do that, but just hold off doing that for a week until Douglas and Rob put some stuff together, do you think that would be enough?
Actually, I don't, and I would ask if we intend to change it, why wait? You know, Douglas was saying by changing.
To be fair, because Douglas, the white paper at the moment has got a draft on it and versioning as well, hasn't it? So, you know, you could even reference that it was this and now we're looking at different proposals. Because if somebody goes and downloads that tomorrow, they're going to see the wrong information. And you could also publish a statement that says, you know, we're taking feedback, and then you've covered it from both angles really while we work up a solution. That would be what I think on it.
I would suggest we update the white paper and maybe put a cutoff date like the launch date or something like that for updating the white paper, because in my experience, if we have this thing that's already on the website, that's a historical document, people who click on it are going to get antiquated information, but they may not know to link to the Steemit posts or whatever that update the situation. So for something this big, I would recommend we keep the white paper as current as possible for those few people who are actually going to download it and read it. We want it to be as accurate as possible for as long as possible.
Okay, then. So the sentiment in the meeting now, from what I see, is that we need to sort of put some version on the white paper and do all this at the same time. How feasible is that? I'm asking. I mean, can we actually do that?
Yeah, if you're asking me, it's highly feasible. What I propose then, since that seems to be the prevailing sentiment, is that I do that, and briefly, what I'll say is I will simply I will do some kind of versioning so that people who want the historical document can find it, and yet what I'll do is I'll change it to reflect be of 6 million telos that will be allocated in a method, to be determined.
Okay.
If that works for everybody, I can get that out today.
Well, I'm going to suggest that we sort of, I think the sentiment in the meeting seems to follow that, unless I've got anybody really screaming and jumping up and down and being unmuted. I'm going to go with that. Phil, can I ask you, have we sort of got a bit of a note of that? Are we okay with that? You're on mute, Phil.
Yeah, I took notes. I wrote that we need to update the white paper.
Okay. No worries. Thanks for that.
I would just jump in here if I could, guys. Exactly to Daniel's point, like this has been the biggest bone of contention. And if we are to make this change, we need to make it very clear that we did make this change, even though we don't have the actual end result. So we need to make sure that we propagate this information, that we have heard loud and clear that this is a concern and that we are revising that.
Well, I seem to think that the meetings definitely got that view, Mark, and I'm sure that it'll get put out on the channels, and the announcement that Douglas and Rob will put together, I'm sure that'll go out there, and we can all make the effort to put that out to our various channels and move forward on that. So to that point, can I
Jim, can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
Yeah. So first of all, I think this is exactly an example of something that we've gone over 10 minutes, and yet it's not been circular. It's been a very productive conversation about a sort of a blood and flames kind of issue. And so I think it's been very productive. So secondly, I would say it's great. I think why don't we just push out this message right away? But I think let's limit the message that we put out to simply this, that if everyone agrees, that we have, due to community sentiment, we have discussed this. We are taking the commentary seriously, and the outcome is that the white paper will be updated to reflect that there will be a Telos founders reserve pool or whatever, reward pool, and that we will have more information about it soon. The white paper will be updated. And we can push that out in channels right after this message, since I know everyone is eager to do that. If that's okay, if everybody agrees.
I motion, Douglas, why don't you come up with a first draft? We'll share it in the Telegram, and if we need to do any smithing of it, we could do it at that point, just to get it polished.
Yeah.
And we can move on.
Okay then, that sounds great. I think we've soon come to a consensus. I thought Douglas was going to jump in and sack me then straight away for going over 10 minutes, but it looks like I've survived, so I'll carry on. So, so let's keep going. The next thing I've got down is the secure communication channels. We've been having some stuff going on about whether we should be on, I don't know. It was sort of, Rob, were you going to jump on?
I can speak to this. So I had about a day-long poll yesterday in the Telos private channel, which resulted in Keybase teams getting the most votes. So I created, if you can see my screen, there's a lot on here, but I'm trying to put just the teams. We have a Telos BPs channel. Notice it doesn't say top for a reason, because it's designed to be inclusive for any contributor, I think. So essentially, this is like Slack. It's all end-to-end encrypted. It's a good, secure communications channel. We can vet each other identity-wise through social media links, which is helpful, especially if you have subversive groups trying to kind of penetrate your secure channel. So just from an operational security standpoint, it's good to have some of these properties. But we've created a number of channels. So if you come to the gear, when you're in the Keybase app, you can go to manage chat channels, and you can see there's a number of channels here. So you can add channels this way. So you can create your own breakout groups. And then we can have threaded communication over the different launch groups and other topics. So I just created one for bounty system. If you have trouble getting in Keybase or you're creating an account, just PM me on Telegram. And you can also come to this link, which is in the meeting agenda, and ask for access to get in, and an admin can add you. We've got admins. We've got a West Coast and an East Coast North America admin, and we've got EOS Barcelona. It'd be good to cover some more time zones so that we can make sure people can get in across the globe. So if you have any good suggestions for admins, and we can develop, criteria for joining if we want in the future. After the Telos mainnet, it might need to be a little bit more locked down, but I think we shouldn't exclude anyone based on votes. It should be more web of trust based. So if you please join, this will be helpful for threaded conversation, use it for all of the working group stuff. And that's all I got.
Yeah, that looks great. I'm sure I'll have to learn how to do that one as well. Roger will be laughing up his sleeve now, giving me yet another one to be having a go at. But I'm sure I'll manage that.
Can I just raise a point on that, Jim? Because I know that there was at least one person who was saying that they have compatible device for Keybase, so which was an iPhone 5. So either time to upgrade, or you can obviously use it across different devices. You don't have to just use it on your phone. So who was that, and does that satisfy them in that area?
Sukesh, and he's not on here, but he'll be able to view the recording. So I think we got him into the channel through the desktop app still.
Okay. So, I mean, I take it that we're going to continue.
I think he was kind of
Go on, Rog.
Sorry. I think he was the only person that was really objecting, wasn't he? So, I mean, what, we're just all going to give a thumbs up on Keybase, or how are we going to deal with that decision?
I seem to have got a sentiment in the room, and I mean, I take it we're going to still be spending our lives on Telegram as well, because we need to get those statements out to everybody who are not on Keybase. I'm sure it's not going to free me from my life on Telegram, but you know, it just gives us a better place to do some work.
I'd like to jump in here, guys.
Yeah, exactly.
It's really important that we choose our tools, not just wisely, but we commit to them. So if we're going to use Keybase, we need to all commit to using Keybase. The idea is that it's going to give us a better tool than Telegram. Telegram is, we've all agreed that that's where the community is, that's where our public presence will be. But as far as our inter-BP communication and in working groups, we need to make a decision that we will commit to using whatever we choose to use, which appears to be Keybase Teams.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's not add extra channels. Let's have one definitive channel, which it seems like we've voted, and it seems like a great tool.
Yeah, what I mean is that we obviously, for getting stuff out to the community, we'll still be using Telegram, and we still need people to be active in those Telegram channels to pick up all the stuff that we picked up on, you know, on the 6 APBs, for example. So, you know, we're still going to have to be doing that. But the stuff between ourselves and all the working groups, we'll do on Keybase. So
the TLOS private group needs to be retired in short order.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. And I'm personally kind of boycotting the Discord altogether, and it's just, you know, I had the same experience with EOS where there was just too many places to look and too many clicks, you know, trying to get information from. So I'm all about sticking with Keybase Teams and not looking at anything else. Best of my ability, anyway.
I haven't got a problem with that.
I agree.
All right, guys. Thanks. I think we can move on then.
Okay, then. So the only thing I've put down, which again I put down, was number 8, was just to flag up the issue tracker, and I thought that was a really good way of monitoring what we were doing on Telegram, and whether we wanted to contribute to anything, whether we thought we'd addressed all those things that happened to be on that spreadsheet as it was there, and whether we want to continue to manage that spreadsheet or not.
So I'll jump in here once again briefly. That's just a Google sheet. It's a starter. If anybody has a better idea for tools, the point is we need a tool. And these communication tools like Keybase Teams don't necessarily provide us that functionality. There was talk of Trello. Whatever we're going to choose, let's once again vet it appropriately and make sure that it serves our needs, and then commit to it.
Yeah, it sounds like a great option. I think this. Thank you, by the way, Mark, for setting this up. This is great for now, and let's then have at some point some further communication along the lines of what Rob set up about do we want to move to another tool. I think this is sufficient for a while. That's just my take, and I'm really glad it's there.
So long as when there's an issue, everyone can refer to this. So if you have or find an issue, please add it to this sheet so everybody knows where to find it, and then we can have an appropriate discussion around it.
I've got a couple of issues I need to add. Can I get a link to the sheet in the Zoom chat by chance, so I don't have to dig for it?
It's linked on the agenda document.
Oh, great. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thanks.
Okay. Mark, do you sort of, I mean, I would sort of see having this as a stand-in agenda item that would update that sheet, but unless we actually look at it and make sure we've addressed it, then, I think it's a great tool, and thanks for doing it. But I think there needs to be a standing item here so we can just check down them and just make sure that they've been covered off.
Sure. A lot of these issues are going to linger for, more than 1 or 2 BP meetings, right? They're more complex than others. So we need a mechanism. There is a kind of an open and a closed mechanism that we could certainly add, but is that what you're asking? That we would use this as sort of a means to set our agenda?
Well, what I'm saying is that I think it should be a standing item on the agenda for this call, just to make sure that that if someone's put something on this document, that we're then all aware and that somebody's doing something about it. I mean, for example, point B, name squatting, with the thing regarding with EO Sweden, we seem to have addressed some of that, but have we addressed it completely? I don't know. Is it something that we want to talk about, or maybe work up in a key-based group? I don't know.
I don't think that was the intended part of our agenda today, because we just want to get our structure down for these calls. I mean, if everybody feels we have time, we could pick some of these off, but it's likely not a good fit for today. I think what's important is that we establish our tool set and that we refine that tool set as people feel necessary. And most importantly, we use that tool set.
Mark, do you want to propose a tool to use by next meeting?
With regards to issue tracking?
Yeah. Just like, here's what we've looked at, and we suggest this one for this group.
I think there's a lot of value to simplicity at this point. And, while there are certainly better tools out there, I would like to see adoption of this tool initially with regards to just tracking of the issues. And then as issues get more complex and potentially outgrow this tool, we can then look at moving to a tool that would serve that need.
Oh, I see. You're talking about the spreadsheet. Just using the spreadsheet for now.
If others feel that will suffice, yes.
That works. Okay, I didn't even see the spreadsheet link. I thought, so that's fine.
I mean, that was my issue with the document. I thought it was really good, but I wasn't convinced that everybody was using it. And I think that it could be used to generate agenda items, and we need to think about how we're going to generate agenda items. But I just think if we keep it updated and we have it as a standing issue to start with, or a standing item to start with, then we can sort of modify that up further. So I think we should leave that there. Douglas, do you have anything else on the agenda that you want to bring forward?
Yes, I did want to. I had added to the most recent version the introduction of working groups and a call to join. And what I'd just like to do is go through what I think they are. We've had some discussion. I've kind of our team internally at my office did a little update of that yesterday in preparation for this call, and I wanted to introduce that and let people know who's working on what, and put out a call to join us. So if that's okay, why don't I just roll right into that?
Yeah, I think if you do that, and then I think we'll call it a day after that, unless anybody's got anything that they want that should be on the agenda or I've missed.
The only thing that I would ask is whether we are comfortable having this issue tracker public, because it is currently public.
I'm comfortable having it public. I think it might even be good public relations to show that this is on our roadmap and our radar.
Public's always best as far as I'm concerned.
Public read, not necessarily public write.
Yeah.
Okay, so
if we have any major security issues, then obviously we can make sure they're not in there, or just reference them, security issue A1 or whatever, and deal with it privately if it's going to be something that would reveal an attack vector, as it were.
Yeah, absolutely. But in general, I think we should. I feel like we all agreed that we should err on the side of transparency, but not necessarily with specific exploits.
Okay, Douglas. Let's move on then. Let's hear what you want to say about your worker proposal thing.
Great. So let me give you the quick list. It won't come as too much of a surprise. I think we have exchange outreach. We have code generation, exchange outreach. Obviously, that's reaching out to exchanges and online wallets and any other group that holds in a few addresses, multiple individual beneficial owners, EOS for exchange. We need to reach out to them. We have a process for that. Beth Farnham from my team is leading that, and she already has brought in some people to work with her. I'm not going to like turn everything over on each of these, but please, if you have interest or talents in that area, please reach out to Beth. That is actually begun. Next, we have code generation, which obviously is creating new code. We have a roadmap that can use a little that needs to be updated each time we take on new features and whatnot. That's currently being led by Peter Boo and Craig Brascom and Ed Silva, but from our team. But we are and some other people have spoken up about joining. We are eager for more people to join that team. They're actually making amazing progress, I would say. Another group that we hadn't already mentioned, but it seems like it should be a separate group, is code testing. So it could have the same people, but it's code testing and code generation are generally separated for good reason. Same people, though, currently probably are leading that. Testnet, the fourth group is the testnet and tools. They'd kind of been separate groups, but really adding the running the testnet and adding new block explorer, things like that. That Peter is currently leading that. I know JT is making amazing progress there, and might even be a good person to take over leadership. I am very conscious of the fact that right now my internal team is leading a lot of things. That does not by any means have to go on. I'm happy for it, but I'm also happy to turn over anything, especially since there will be bounties, and we'll want to share that. Anyway, I just want to make that point. Next is security. We think that things like security should actually be their own group. There's currently no lead for that. Next is there's arbitration, or the TAO. I think that group, which is seeking to create that, could also handle anything else governance related. We're going to have a constitution. I actually have a draft of that coming up, but also things like the update to the reg producer contract and how we're going to tie infractions and penalties closely together in that. I'm writing that. It's you may not be surprised to learn that is taking longer than I had initially thought. But I think that arbitration and governance would be a good thing as one group. I don't believe that currently has a leader, and so we'd love people to step up for that. I think that initially I was telling people that everyone's, when under the 6 ABP model, that there would be the social media was just everyone's responsibility. I think now, if we are moving to a rewards model, that social media and promotion needs to be its own working group, and so it's rewarded and tracked and whatnot. Coming to the end here, there's a translations and global outreach. We have I hesitate to sort of have this as an English-speaking centric project, but the reality is it is. And there have been people like Joseph and Chen who have been wonderful at helping us get the word out to other communities. We have somebody internally who's working with Korean communities. I think we want to encourage this, and it probably deserves its own group. And then finally, there's something called special projects, which is just miscellaneous, something that's important but doesn't neatly fit into any of these things. Those would probably be ad hoc, as they come up. I don't see any at this point, but it's highly conceivable something might be. So that's that. I really just wanted to give the overview. I wanted to, at this point, coming up to our first week, I would love to have in the weekly progress report that I'm hoping to get out on Thursday mornings, a idea of who is joining up, who is on these. I think it really sends a good message to the community that this is something we are real, which clearly we are just by the turnout here and everything that's happened so far. So if we can sort of find ways to, if there's a stated current leader or team on any group, reach out to those people. If there's not, please, you are more than welcome and encouraged to step forward and say, hey, I'll take this, I'll take that. That's my spiel.
For the special projects, I would say many of us are trying to get companies on board, companies that that can create great products and distributed apps. So maybe that could be part of these special projects.
Well, that's actually a great thing. I mean, perhaps that should be its own outreach group. Perhaps I think developer outreach. That's probably one I missed. It was kind of in the back of my mind. I think that's extremely important. Like if getting exchanges and developers onto the platform, especially early in a pre-launch way, is of tremendous importance. So yeah, we should probably. What do you guys think about creating that as its own group as well?
In my mind, if we can go live with at least a couple of dApps already deployed, that's something Mainnet never had. I just, want to do different things in a different way, having value on the network from day one.
Personally, I support that wholeheartedly.
So that's what I'm trying to do here in Barcelona, having meetings with some companies, trying to engage them for day one. I don't know.
Well, I think we all are in. I think we're all in favor of that. It seems, Joseph, would you be comfortable leading that? That's something I'm also doing because I'm hearing from people. I think that would be great. So can anyone who's also interested in that? Joseph, are you open to being the initial kind of point person to people to people?
I will actually prefer that somebody else would be the leader. If nobody else wants to do it, I will do it. But
Then let's not put it in the context of being a leader. Let's just put that in the context for now, if possible, of that you'll be the collector of people and then of the group and leaders even people like that are like, even for example, Beth is leading the exchange outreach right now, but actual leaders will be chosen, can be chosen once there's a team coalesces on each work.
So for now, I'm just happy to collect everything and wait until a group pops up and we decide how to work.
Okay, is it okay if I just jump in here? Would you, is your idea, in the chat we've talked about putting some summaries of their groups in Keybase. Is that where we're going to start this sort of admin process and people can assess it and jump on and sort of show their willingness to participate? And I take it that's where we're going to do this on Keybase. Is that correct?
I think that'd be great. I think that Rob has already set up the tools and we can add the additionals that we haven't talked about. So maybe that's just the wet thing. Subscribe to that channel and just say, hey, I'm in, and or I'm interested.
Okay, that's great. Well, I'm going to say that it's 1 hour, 1 minute for this call, and we did have a bit of messing about to start with. So I think we're there, guys. I mean, we can carry on chatting for hours on end if we like, but I think we've got enough to be going on with for the time being. And the only thing I've got finally is I think at the end of each one of these calls, we need to decide who's going to chair the next one. If you want me to continue to chair, then I will do that, and I'll pull together the agenda items like I've done this time. Or if you want to propose somebody else to do that or work a way forward. But if there's no objections, I'm happy to do the next one, but I'm also happy to step down. And from there, I think we should get on Keybase and start tapping away.
Sounds good. Just want to add a little bit about the working groups, guys. So Douglas, is there, so the working groups that you just mentioned, are they listed somewhere, or where can we find some detailed information about what working groups are there? Who should we contact to if we want to join the groups, and how do we join them? Maybe it's better for us to have a sort of like documented thing in the Telegram channel or the Keybase teams, so that people who want to join know how to join it.
Great. I will write that up and I will post that in Keybase Teams General. Is that okay with everybody?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
One last question before we wrap it. In the spirit of radical transparency, we can decide to make these video calls public. It's up to you guys. For now, I'm going to just plop it into Keybase, but if you all want to just like be an open book to the community, we can do that too, which may also build trust. So it's up to you guys.
I would favor that. I don't think anything has transpired here that would work against transparency. In fact, I'm it could be a model for it. So personally, just I'm in favor of that. I have no objections.
Yeah, I would also.
We all just give a thumbs up. Go public.
Mark, did you want to say something? Okay, yeah, cool.
Okay.
I think in light of the battles that
publish.
Well, one moment. Let's make sure that it's not just thumbs up, because I think if anybody has a real strong reason not to, one strong thumbs down could outweigh a bunch of thumbs up when we're talking about making something public. So can we just have a moment for anyone who dissents to voice that and not just steamroll through it? I don't think there is, but let's just give it a moment. So is there any dissent? Is there any reason not to make it?
I think anybody wants to do a thumbs down.
Well, also we've got a bit of an issue with the thumbs because some people aren't here. I think if you've got a real issue, if you want to just stick it in the chat, I think we can see that then. But from somebody who's been battling with the EOS group to try and get on channels, the fact that we can just produce this one out, I think is quite strong. But if anyone's got an objection, then if we put it in the chat, and then Rob can check that in the chat, and we can talk about that on Keybase. But if we just say we'll go unless we've got a strong objection, then if Rob holds back for, I don't know how long you'd take to put it up, but if you just hold back for a couple of hours at the very least to see if
I can wait a day.
Yeah, well, let's wait a day. If anyone's got a real issue and they want to put that issue to Rob, then we can do that. Other than that, is everyone happy for me to call this to a close and welcome everybody to the call next week?
Yeah,
sounds good.
I want to say thanks, Jim. I think you did a great job, and we're looking forward to next week.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Just super quick in closing, even if we don't make this public, we should post this recording to our private channel for those that couldn't participate.
Will do.
I'll motion that Jim continue for the time being for running the calls. Did a good job.
Second.
Yep.
I would just like to jump in and say, in the interest of organization, let's use the channel feature in Keybase. Let's just not plug the general channel with chaos. Let's create a meetings channel where meetings can be found and meeting notes can be found. And let's please use the channel structure to keep our conversations organized.
Agreed.
Excellent.
Yeah, I second that, Mark, because it's just, let's organize.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you guys on the Keybase channel. I'm going to end the recording now.
See you next week, guys.